That is a cat.
Remake my order again.
A cat in Japan.
Uninterested.
A cat in the countryside of Japan, in fact in Akizuki.
はい、こんにちは。秋月に行きたいので。
And in today's video, I want to take you with me on this little adventure in the south of Japan where I met that cat and got to capture the evening sun on film.
こんにちは。
Let's rewind to where the story begins.
Smoking rooms wherever you are. It's just about close.
The story begins here. In a city in Nagasaki Prefecture called Sasebo, which I was visiting together with my granny because it's her hometown and we met some relatives there. That whole trip to the south will be a separate video, by the way. Today we're focusing on just one afternoon of this trip with my granny. On this day, we left Sasebo and planned to take the train to Hakata. However, my granny and I were going to go our separate ways and then meet up again at the end of the day. And so before hopping onto the train, I was looking at the route and thought, you know, instead of going from one city to another and just passing by the countryside in between, wouldn't it be better to actually see what is in between? And so I found a little village that was more or less on my route and decided to go there before heading to Hakata.
I spend my days in despair, for in my mind you're still there.
I got off at a train station called Tosu, where I had to change to a smaller train. Something really cool here that I just came across by coincidence is this gallery under the tracks, as they call it.
Without you, I will love you.
Of course, I went to the front to get some shots because, you know me. And then I arrived at another train station to catch another train, and here I was already feeling that countryside, empty, quiet feeling. This is the beautiful train that I got to ride, and it took me very close to my destination. I was trying to get to this village called Akizuki, and this station here is about a 15-minute drive away. However, there aren't any trains that get you closer than here. And it seemed that there were also no buses, so I figured I'd probably have to take a taxi for this last little bit. I was hoping that it would be worth it. However, there were no taxis at the train station. I thought train stations always had taxis. Turns out this station doesn't have them here, but they have 2 free phone lines to call a taxi, and so I tried.
はい、こんにちは。秋月に行きたいので、私今天城駅にいるので、時間がかかりますか？そうですか。じゃあちょっと考えてから、はい、ありがとうございます。
Well, they turned out to be pretty busy and somehow would take quite a while, so I thought, let me try the other company.
はい、こんにちは。今天城駅にいるので、秋月に行きたいのでタクシーを注文してもいいですか？あ、すいません。ありがとうございます。じゃあ天城駅で待っています。ありがとうございます。
It was looking good. A taxi would arrive very soon, and then hopefully I have enough time in Akizuki to enjoy the last bit of sun on this fine day. So, I'm out here in the Japanese countryside in a place called Akizuki, and apparently this place is supposed to be quite cute and beautiful, and what I've seen so far confirms that. So, I'd say let's strap on the GoPro onto my head and I'll take you with me on the last sort of 1.5, 2 hours of light here, and let's shoot some film. So, 2 learnings right away. Firstly, Akizuki is indeed very pretty. Secondly, there is actually a bus. I was just too silly to find it. Let me tell you, in case you ever travel to Japan, Google Maps is amazing, but in Japan, sometimes a little inaccurate, especially on the countryside.
Okay, we're starting off absolutely beautiful here. I mean,
The travel time to get here was a little longer than I had expected, so I was a little late to begin shooting, which meant that by the time I got this first shot, it was already peak golden hour, and while I was not happy to be running late, I can't be that unhappy with this gorgeous lighting. This is the first shot of Akizuki, and it's a decent start, I think. It's nothing special, but simply captures the beauty of this moment, and for me, that's enough to begin with.
oh, so beautiful. I don't know how to move, which way to go. But this tree is just magnificent. Not sure if that's a good shot.
Yeah, this one isn't that good, but that tree was just so beautiful I couldn't resist to at least try to photograph it, and it's not terrible, but I think it would be a stretch to call this good.
I feel like I don't need to move, I just need to turn in circles and I'll see something. I mean, look at that house peeking out there, that's really cute. I feel like I'm on a shooting spree.
Yes, I was definitely on a shooting spree in this moment. The lighting was just so irresistible. This shot is okay, lovely lighting, but the composition and such are not particularly remarkable, I'd say.
Oh my... How is this tree so large? Did you look at that?
I was really so hyped on this afternoon, and everything I saw here fascinated me. I know I'm easy to impress, but these clips make it extra apparent to me. Anyway, in this particular one, I was impressed by, of course, the beautiful lighting, and this shot, I must say, I really like. I enjoy the split made by the shade of the bridge that creates this line, and how the ferns glow in the sunlight. Here I was intrigued by the intense glow of the river and tried to find a way to capture that. Here's the result, and I really like this one. It feels like a variation of the first shot, but this one is much better. The composition is a little geometrical here, with the photograph being sort of split into triangles. The lighting conveys an intense feeling, I find, the one I was experiencing there, and the glow just looks great, so I'm happy with this one.
Guys, golden hour is just too easy. Ah, look at that. Okay, we're going 160th.
Here I tried to get a photo that entirely consists of rocks and water, which worked out quite nicely, I think. I set the shutter speed to 1/60th to get some nice motion blur in the water, which I find looks really nice here. However, immediately after taking this shot, I realised that maybe 1/60th is not enough motion blur, so I got a very similar shot again, but this time with my shutter speed set to 1/30th. This one does look a little better in my opinion, however the difference is not really that significant.
Oh no, we only have a couple minutes of golden hour left.
So it was time for a new roll of film. Up until now, the shots you've seen were shot on Fujicolor 100, and now I was putting in a fresh roll of Kodak Gold 200. While ISO 200 is really just a small jump in exposure, just one stop, I was hoping that the extra sensitivity would allow me to shoot just a bit longer as soon as the sun dips behind the mountain.
Alright. This is actually quite interesting.
I like this one. What I found interesting here are the layers. The bottom third is just this dense greenery, and then in the middle are our subjects of the photo, the houses, which are nicely lit up by the sun. And then instead of just having the upper half filled with an empty blue sky, the scene gives us some extra houses at the back, and then a mountain that is sort of framing the houses, and only then, in the top quarter of the frame, is the blue sky. I find this composition very comfortably balanced. I like it. Then, before we continue, I want to take a moment to thank the continued sponsor of the channel, Squarespace. Squarespace is an easy-to-use all-in-one website platform. I've been using Squarespace for my website for over 5 years now, and I'm still so happy with it, mainly because it's so easy. I use my Squarespace website as a portfolio where I showcase projects of mine. However, you can build pretty much anything on Squarespace, be it a simple blog or an online shop or a site for bookings if you're a freelancer. To make things even easier, Squarespace has released their AI design feature called Design Intelligence, which you can use instead of a template. You can basically build the entire basis of your website with the help of an AI tool which will ask you a couple questions, and that's it. But if you'd prefer to start off from a template, that's of course still possible. After selecting a template, it's very easy and intuitive to customize the web design to your liking thanks to their drag and drop editor called Fluid Engine. I seriously love it that they have created this tool that makes the process of being creative while making a website not feel slow or tedious, even though I'm not a web developer. I recommend that you try it out yourself. You can head to squarespace.com for a 14-day free trial, by the way, and then when you're ready to launch your website, you can go to squarespace.com/TeoCrawford to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for continuously supporting the channel and my work here. I really appreciate it.
So I think there is a cool bridge somewhere down that way. We'll go there and then head sort of to the right, out of the shade of this mountain, so that we get just a couple more sun rays.
Everybody seems to know that I'm the one who crossed the line, and it got me lost. Everybody says the same, searching for a way to find a path back to self-control, but it got me lost.
That, however, is pretty cool. Should we just do it straight on? I don't know, straight on is a bit boring maybe.
While figuring this composition out, I saw a bicycle coming this way, and suddenly I thought that could maybe be a neat chance for a photo.
No idea if that worked out, but maybe.
Here is the result, and I think this one worked out wonderfully. The composition is a little sloppy, but kept simple and effective. The sunlight is what makes it work for me. The way it shines this spotlight onto the boy on his bicycle is just perfect. The setting, the lighting, and the action work together really nicely, I find, and evoke a nostalgic feeling for me. You know, one that reminds me of when I was that age.
I know this has been done a lot, but it's always fun. Can't stop doing it either.
This one turned out surprisingly cool, I find. As said on the spot, I knew I was shooting something that is done so often, especially the self-portraits, but in this case I thought it was pretty cool how the houses were reflected in the mirror with a similar house right behind the mirror. And then finally I got this shot of the vending machine. I chose this angle to include the camper van and the sign of the karate dojo. After all this time though, I must say it's quite okay. Really nothing special. Or maybe it'll grow on me later, but hey, that's photography. Some things work, some don't.
Okay, this is amazing. What?
I was fascinated by the rawness of this bus stop. It's so bare. It has 2 seats but no roof. It looks so exposed to the weather. I got 2 shots, one vertical and one horizontal, and I think I prefer the horizontal one. It feels more balanced to me.
Oh, and this is the bridge.
woman's throat. May look different from what you dreamed. Colors and contrast making it.
This could be interesting.
So the bridge itself turned out to be pretty, but I didn't really find much to shoot apart from that house, and now this mirror. I like this one. For me, it just captures a little detail of this place, so maybe it's not ideal as a standalone photo, but as a part of a series, I think it's quite nice.
Konnichiwa.
Here, I thought to have found a possible composition of the bridge, and additionally there was now also some added life thanks to the schoolgirls who met up here. The shot turned out alright. I think there's a lot of potential here, however the time of day is basically an hour too late. The sunlight is hitting the background, but not the actual subject, so in that sense, I think this one sadly doesn't really work out.
No! The sun is gone. And that was it with Golden Hour. It was indeed a short hour.
Here, I was quite fond of the corner of this house with the bushes and the trees around, plus the edge of town in the background. Here's the result, and I like this one. It's not really special or flashy in any way, but somehow it just sits right with me personally. I think the house is just beautiful and the background too, so simply it's just this place. And in general, it was very much worth coming here, I think, and this photograph sort of captures that spirit.
Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. People are so kind out here.
This was a very impulsive shot, and I'm so happy to have taken it. The boy on his bicycle zooming past me into the sunset just has such a lovely feeling to it. A vibe, if you will. I love this one.
Maybe it's just because they're kids. The kids are kinder. Circle.
At this point, the sun had firmly set and I was just hanging on to the last bit of light. Here I wanted to simply capture a wide shot of the town and the few cars passing with the field in the foreground. The result is okay, it also captures that sunset feeling, but this photo could need some more going on, especially in the sky, and just overall it doesn't really beat the one of the boy on the bicycle. I continued to explore this outer part of town and got some shots here and there, but they didn't really turn out that good. They were fine, but just not remarkable in any way.
It's the 5 o'clock tune.
And then here I was approaching a little bridge to cross the river where I spotted another potential photograph. here's the shot, and it's not bad, but also not really good, again, I'm afraid. I think the lighting is maybe just a bit too flat. Also, the biker in the background is basically invisible because of the blur, so that also doesn't help.
Wow.
This one I think is more interesting. It's a more selective frame, not an overall wide shot, and for me it's a composition that puts the plants, the wall and the yellow net into relation to each other in an attempt to balance them, which I think worked out alright. One last thing I wanted to check out are the fields on this side of the town. These fields are of course quite a key element of Japan's countryside, however these ones turned out to be not that interesting. I didn't really spot anything particular to shoot, until I saw another boy on his bicycle, presumably on the way home after school. Here's the photo, and sadly it's a little disappointing. I actually really wanted to stand in the middle of the road and centre frame the shot and play with that simplicity. However, a bloody truck had to come into my way as you saw, and so my only option was to shoot this right before the truck overtook. This isn't bad, not at all actually, but just not what I had initially envisioned.
Car destroying my photo. So it's becoming a little dark now, and also a little cold. I left my jacket in the coin locker, like 2 stations away from the first station I'll be going to. So it's a bit away. I should probably start heading back to that station and get on with it to Hakata, where my next hotel is, and that's the last night before returning to Tokyo.
And so I made my way back to the middle of the town where I had found a bus stop that would take me back to the train station. And it was here that I met that cat that I showed you at the beginning, and that was the end of the session. I had a bit of a wait for the bus, but it eventually came and I made my way to Hakata, where I regrouped with my granny. This was a fun little side quest on this trip, and I enjoyed my time here in Akizuki. I hope you too enjoyed your time joining me on this evening. Before saying goodbye, I would like to say thank you to the lovely people supporting me in my work on Patreon. Thank you so much to each one of you. If you're interested in Lightroom presets, tutorials and stuff like that, you can check out my page via the link in the description. Also, I have a print shop by the way, in case that is of interest to you, also in the description. With that said, I hope to see you again soon. Until then, goodbye.